Hello, I'm Locke, Meredith. I'd like to invite you to join me on the next Legal Lines, where my guest is Baton Rouge City Police Chief Murphy Paul. Chief Paul is going to talk to us about a new program where it coordinates federal, state, and local law enforcement agencies to really focus on crime, particularly in the city of Baton Rouge, and it's working. And it shares technology and resources. He's also going to talk to us about crime in the city and what is good, the bad, some ugly, but a lot of good folks. So join us on the next Legal Lines with Baton Rouge Police Chief Murphy Paul. I'm Lawyer Locke, Meredith. If you're battling an insurance company because of a wreck not your fault and they're not calling you back or being fair, whether you hire us at all, give us a call, 272-5555, or email Locke Meredith, Sean Fagan and Associates. You have nothing to lose.
Hi, I'm Sean Fagan of Locke Meredith, Sean Fagan and Associates. When insurance companies have been unfair, we've never been afraid to go to trial. Fighting hard to protect your rights, we never settle a case out of convenience. We only settle when it's right for you. Whether you hire us at all, give us a call.
Hi, I'm Mitchell Meredith. Injuries happen when you least expect them to, making your life more complicated. At Locke Meredith, Sean Fagan and Associates, we know this and we strive to help each of our clients during these times. Whether you hire us at all, give us a call at 272-5555.
I'm lawyer Collins Locke Meredith. Trust is important when hiring an injury law firm. At Locke Meredith, Sean Fagan Associates, thousands have trusted us and gotten the results they deserved. Visit us at LockeMeredith.com. Whether you hire us at all, give us a call, 272-5555.
Hello, welcome to Legal Lines. I'm Locke Meredith. I'm very pleased to continue a set of shows with Baton Rouge City Police Chief Murphy Paul. Chief Paul, let's dive in. So we kind of talked about, you came in 18, you had all kinds of issues you had to deal with, both on the community side, on the kind of the implementation, officer, process, organization side of city police, and made a lot of progress in those regards. Let's talk about crime, because you know that's what everybody's going to.
Yeah.
You know, we hear about crime every single day. There's something on TV every day. There's something in the newspaper or websites every day. And of course, it's on a national scale too.
Yes.
So it's not just in Baton Rouge or New Orleans. It's nationwide that we have kind of like this crazy trend of crime that just, at least from what you hear on TV and the media, is just going out of control.
Yeah.
So where are we, you know, statistically and historically? Because I know in the past we've struggled. It's kind of like a constant trajectory up. Some years will go down, but then it always seems to go back up and above.
Yeah, I think if you look at it historically, when you look at crime in Baton Rouge, I think you'll see the per capita numbers were probably higher, and I think that's the Louisiana as a whole. That's just not Baton Rouge.
I mean, we always are seemingly in the bad top number 1 or 2 spot.
And I think that can be contributed in our education, the socioeconomic issues that Louisiana has faced. I think all of that plays a role.
Let me ask you a quick question.
Yeah.
What about all, all the trafficking? So you got sex trafficking, drugs pouring in from Mexico and elsewhere, South America, and fentanyl from China coming in through South America. I mean, it sounds like we've just constantly bombarded with criminals coming in from different parts of the country. Well, because I guess of the thoroughfares around here.
Yeah, but I think if you look at crime in Baton Rouge in particular, look, we can't blame that on people who are coming into the country. When we look at the crime that's happening here, particularly the violent crime, I don't think it's coming in. Now,
do we have
I think
gangs here?
Absolutely, we have gangs.
Do we have like the MS-13 guys and all that stuff?
When you look at the groups here that are involved in violence here, it's not your typical hierarchy of a gang that we've seen from traditional
So no cartel
times.
involvement that you've seen?
It's more neighborhood organizations and groups, guys that involved in music industry as well as drugs that identify. And then let me be clear, we don't have to identify. They identify themselves for us. So when we learn of those group of individuals, for whatever reason, don't get along, that they're in specific neighborhoods in the city. And yes, they are involved in a lot of the gun violence that we're seeing in our city. But we saw that before 2020. And I think when you talk about a historical perspective, when we look at 2018, 2019, consistently we had 2 years in a row of reductions in violent crime, reductions in overall crime, reductions in murder. And we believe as 2020 start that we were going to continue to recognize. So we believe some of the strategies that we put in place are going to have long-term positive consequences on crime. What are some of those? We look at crime through 3 different lenses: prevention, intervention, and enforcement. So a heavy focus on the prevention and intervention obviously helps us on the enforcement end. On the backside, our Crime and Gun Intelligence Center, which we partnered with the district attorney on that, where we have special officers and detectives that are working with ATF, working with the crime labs, following these shooting incidents. We have our Truce Initiative, which formerly Brave
right.
was that, where we're actually trying
and
to
that was
reach
productive.
out, absolutely, trying to reach out to young individuals who are involved in violence or who have the potential to be involved in, to try to give them other options and provide services to get them on the right track. We have so many initiatives that are focusing on that small group of individuals. They were working they were working in 2019. And even our Stop the Loss initiative, domestic violence, we had the highest number of homicide in the parish last year than we've ever had before.
So sad,
domestic violence. So working with the district attorney's office, categorizing levels of offenders, getting survivors the services and help that they need, prioritizing those offenders who have the potential to continue domestic violence.
And we've lost some officers. I remember sheriffs, a couple of got shot or killed.
Absolutely. So and one of the most dangerous calls for service, you're correct, responding to incidents involving domestic violence. So as we look at those programs, they were working in 18 and 19, and then 2020 came, and it changed. And what I believe COVID did for not just us, but America, while we're seeing this, it created a lot of trauma. When we interrupt the norms.
No doubt.
When we shut down schools, shut down businesses, and all of the economic hardship that was presented during that period, systems that are designed to reduce crime, kids going to school, kids involved in extracurricular activities.
Were taken out of the equation.
We didn't have that. The probation officer doing visits to make sure that someone was doing what he or she was supposed to do.
So you think that's part of the reason that is increased? Any other possible causes?
The lack of accountability. I mean, think about it. There are people who are waiting for court hearings. That didn't happen. Courts were closed. Those who were in drug programs were not taking drug tests. So all of those systems that were designed to hold someone accountable to make sure they're on the right track, that didn't happen when we shut down the country, when we shut down the city, when we shut down things.
And I know Hiller is, and I know there was this justice reform package that was passed, but you guys are strong proponents of, if they're doing some violent stuff, they need to be in jail.
Oh, absolutely.
Sometimes without bail. There's none of this, just let them go.
We want those violent offenders to be held accountable. And we know that it makes our job even harder when we arrest someone for murder, when we arrest somebody for shooting at someone, when someone is arrested for harming someone and they're released back to the same community and they run across victims, or they run across family members of victims, or they run across rival groups of gangs. I think all of that is in part why we see this continuing violence among this small group of individuals.
So bottom line is, kind of as I'm synthesizing, you feel like it was working what you had accomplished over the last several years and implemented, but COVID exacerbated it, and there were some other bombs that went off too. And so that's kind of where we are. So what other options do you think that you're going to now, you've talked about what may have caused it or exacerbated it. Let's talk about on the next segment what it is that you're now doing to address the increase in crime.
Absolutely.
And so that's what we'll tackle next. This is Locke Meredith, Legal Lines. My special guest, Baton Rouge Police Chief Murphy Paul. We'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Mitchell Meredith. Injuries happen when you least expect them to, making your life more complicated. At Locke, Meredith, Sean Fagan and Associates, we know this and we strive to help each of our clients during these times. Whether you hire us at all, give us a call at 272-5555.
Locke, Meredith, Sean Fagan and Associates has won for our clients over $175 million over the decades, but our greatest success is our clients who have chosen and trusted us to help them. Whether you hire us at all, give us a call. You've got nothing to lose.
I'm lawyer Collins Locke Meredith. Trust is important when hiring an injury law firm. At Locke Meredith, Sean Fagan Associates, thousands have trusted us and gotten the results they deserved. Visit us at LockeMeredith.com. Whether you hire us at all, give us a call, 272-5555.
Welcome back to Legal Lines. I'm Locke Meredith. Pleased to have back on the show Baton Rouge City Police Chief Murphy Paul. Chief, let's dive back in. So you were talking about kind of what you think has caused kind of the increase in crime. A lot of legitimate things to point at, no doubt. Let's shift gears though. Let's talk about what's going on to now address this increasing crime that sadly, 1 year, 2 years goes up, goes down, but it's always historical highs, it seems like, that it's heading for sooner or later. So you mentioned when we were discussing earlier, this kind of federal, state, local, big giant spyglass that everybody's kind of coordinating and looking down and figuring out how to solve this. Tell folks about it, please.
Yeah, so one of the things, we look for trends, right? So we look for trends in crime. Well, we saw that the trend was different after 2020. It started in 2020 during the height of the COVID pandemic. We saw more daytime shooting incidents.
Interesting.
We saw more females being victimized. We saw a closer relationship between suspects and victims. We saw disruptions in the drug trade, right? And that caused some gang violence and drug-related shooting incidents.
Speaking of drugs, fentanyl's killing tens of thousands of our citizens and our babies.
We saw increases in overdoses, with that, we saw increases in fentanyl as being a common denominator in overdoses and in fatalities. So we see this influx of fentanyl.
And this is nationwide.
This is nationwide.
Not just Louisiana and Baton Rouge.
It's not unique here.
We got to do something about this.
We're seeing it in rural parishes as well. So when we start to see these trends, and one of the challenges that we saw also after 2020 was this exit in law enforcement with early retirements nationally in 2020. So we saw increases in early retirements. We saw increases in resignations nationally. Our turnover ratio was around 9%, which is less than what some of our other partners around the country.
Still, that's got to be hard to deal with.
But it's about 3% more than we've had. We've been fortunate to have academy after academy, but still, those numbers are big. Look, we're not the only one who were challenged with
Sheriff's
that.
dealt
State
with it.
police, Sheriff's Office has vacancies, state police, and all our surrounding law enforcement partners. So it was important for us to not just look at our relationships that we have, but to see what we can do even more. And thanks to the leadership of our mayor, what she did through our National Public Safety Partnership, we call our federal partners down. And for the first time in history, we're putting together a strategic plan for East Baton Rouge Parish as a whole. Now, what does that mean to your listeners? BRPD has its strategy. All of the police departments have their strategy. No, we're going to have an overall strategy, inclusive of everyone. We had a workshop at our downtown library where we sat down and we looked at things that we're doing from a long-term and short-term goals to reduce violent crime, particularly shooting incidents and homicides in our city. So who was there? State Police, Sheriff's Office, BRPD, EBR, District Attorney's Office, the U.S. Attorney's Office, FBI, DEA, U.S. Marshals, Constable.
The big dogs.
All the federal. So everybody came to the table. We talked about what we bring to the table, what skill sets, expertise we have. And then we began to design operations around that. Right now we have our Operation Red Stick, which started in January.
What's it called?
Operation Red Stick.
Red Stick.
Operation Red Stick.
Baton Rouge.
Where we're targeting that small group of individuals, 600.
That's 6%.
Absolutely. Over 600 arrests this year alone. Some are repeat offenders. And we're going to continue to investigate those individuals and continue to target that small group that we've identified until they put the guns down or until they get put away in jail.
So it's interesting because we've talked in the past and with the other law enforcement chiefs, there's always been recently seems like a coordination of the use of resources, right?
Yeah.
Technology, might meet in a building, violent crime unit, that kind of stuff. This is different though.
Yeah,
this is a strategy from what I understand.
So, but it includes the technology piece too, because one of the tools that we use to target specific areas is the data that's coming out of our real-time crime center. So we have real-time data that we're looking at, repeat addresses where we're spending a lot of resources at, and allowing that technology to help us in our patrol strategies, in our enforcement efforts. So a lot of our operations are now data-driven. But it's not just the data-driven piece, it's the human intelligence piece that we get from the relationships that we built with the community to tell us where we need to be. And when we see that human intelligence piece aligning what we're seeing in the data, we know we're moving in the right direction. And there are some, right now homicides are down, right now around 12-15% when I last look. And we're hoping we can continue to build on that. But what we're seeing is this close relationship between our murder victims and those who we are arresting and those who are suspected of committing those crimes. So
you get that circle, you're kind of zeroing in on them.
Absolutely.
Makes sense. The other good news you were mentioning is you've got some funding now.
We were fortunate. So our Operation Red Stick, some of our other operations, we are able to use some of our federal dollars that came from the president's office and our Congress. So thanks to all of them, thanks to our mayor for helping lead those efforts. I've been blessed to go down there and meet with those at the White House to talk about some of the great work that's going on here in the city of Baton Rouge. But we're able to use that not only on the enforcement piece, but the prevention and intervention side. Through the mayor's safe and hopeful, healthy initiative, yes.
And the bottom line is, this is such a massive problem. You're not going to end this by just throwing everybody in jail, because you can't throw everybody in jail, number one. And it's an endless supply if we don't fix it in the beginning or start trying to fix it before they get here. And then you got the whole addiction thing going on and the mental health thing.
And that's one of the things that we're doing different now that we were not doing before. So I have all of this data that I talked about earlier, the same data that we're using to identify areas of concern. We're now taking that data and we're sharing it with service providers. We're sharing it for those addiction specialists and saying we're seeing this. We're sharing it with our faith-based partners and say, hey, we need your help in these areas. We're sharing it with those who are working through the mayor's office on these community street teams, through our Safe, Hopeful, and Healthy BR initiative, saying, look, we see young folks involved in these incidents that are escalating. Can you go and help us? For whatever reason, they're not calling law enforcement, but let's go see if we can prevent that crime from happening. Let's go offer services to this particular family to prevent the next crime from happening. So I think you see a lot of focus on those dollars going on the prevention and the intervention
Excellent.
side.
All right. Let's also talk about on the next segment kind of the recruitment of new officers.
Sure.
So this is Locke, Meredith Legal Lines. My very special guest, Baton Rouge Police Chief Murphy Paul. We'll be right back talking about crime.
Hi, I'm Sean Fagan of Locke, Meredith, Sean Fagan and Associates. Open the phone book or look online. There are plenty of lawyers to choose from. And if you ask any of them, they'll agree that the vast majority of claims settle without ever having gone to trial. And I'll tell you, any lawyer can settle a claim. It's not hard to settle a claim, but it takes hard work to get a client what he or she deserves. At Locke, Meredith, Sean Fagan Associates, we have a proven record of working hard for our clients. Whether you hire us at all, give us a call.
Welcome back to Legal Lines. I'm Locke Meredith. Pleased to have back on the show Baton Rouge City Police Chief Murphy Paul. Chief, let's dive back in. Let's shift gears a little bit. So you were talking about a lot of positive stuff that's going on that you think is helping keep the crime rates down below what they were maybe the previous year or two. Let's talk about issues that are still need some focused attention on. And you mentioned officers are retiring, or they're just saying, I've had enough, I'm out of here. Let's talk about that.
Well, that's a national issue. We've
Right.
seen that happen after 2020. We believe a lot of the reform efforts that have happened nationally has played a role in that. When we look at our recruiting and retention efforts, that has to be
Can
a
I ask you a
priority.
quick question?
Yeah.
I don't mean to interrupt you, but it's
Sure.
what you just said. A lot of those folks may be leaving law enforcement because of the changes made, I guess, in processing and the way you're going to do stuff when you engage with criminals or the public. Was there a conflict between trying to implement that and the fact that officers were getting killed? They were being, shot in their cars and stuff, murdered. And so they're just like, so my question is this, because if I'm a cop and I'm seeing that happen, I'm going, wait a minute, is this making me less safe? And you're saying, no, it doesn't make you less safe.
No, I think there's two different things. I think what we have to look at is what's happening in America. Social media has made the world so small.
Yes.
It doesn't matter where something happens. If a law enforcement officer was injured, it makes its way to my front door. Every
point.
chief of police in America, it makes its way to our front door. All of the reform efforts that were going on around the country, we used to hear defunding the police.
Right.
Well, that never happened here. We never even had
Thank God.
conversations
Yes.
about defunding police. I tell you, that whole initiative
That's
wasn't
nuts.
thought out. It was
It's
not
nuts.
smart. But when you look at the issues related to that, yeah, that still made its way to my front door and others. I don't know how many conversations that I've had where the perception that was happening here
Right.
was not the reality.
And that's not what's happening
No,
here.
our budget has increased every year since 2020. In fact, our mayor has given us not only 2 pay raises with the final approval through our city council, but we also got our merit increases when other police departments who were facing economic hardship were not able to do the same. So we start to see these issues that have negatively impacted recruitment and retention.
So how are we dealing with it?
I'll tell you how we're dealing with it. We're more intentional. We're more deliberate. I don't believe that nobody wants to be a police officer. And if anyone says that, I love to entertain them in the conversation about young folks who want to serve. Yes, we do have young people who still want to serve. We just have to work a little harder in our recruitment. And it's not just because of the reform things that we've seen nationally that have caused that. It's also because us not really looking at us. When I say us, I mean law enforcement as a whole. We have not really looked at the issue and the generational differences that the next generation has.
Well, you're not kidding.
What made me tick doesn't make this new generation tick.
I'm telling you,
This
it's
is my
interesting to deal with
kids
this
now.
new stuff.
Right, so we have to learn the ways to inspire. And what I tell my recruitment team who I'm on, and let me tell you, I am so proud of them. I am so proud of the work that we're doing. We have an academy class that graduates the second week of May. We have another academy class that starts in the third week of June.
And you said they're packed, right?
Oh, look, this academy is going to be one of our biggest academies. And I believe it's because we're more intentional now. We're inspiring these young kids now, the young generation. They want to know what's in it for me. Why do I want to serve? And really focusing on the values of the job is really important as we move in the next direction. And this is the example I give. If Louisiana State University has recruiters that will pick up the phone and call mamas at high schools and daddies and take the time to go sit there at basketball, football games, track meets, and invite all of these kids to their school, if Southern University does the same thing, recruiters go out trying to recruit the next talent to convince them to be a Tiger or convince them to be a Jaguar, we need to be just as intentional in our efforts to find young folks who want to serve, and we're doing that now in the Baton Rouge Police Department.
Well, it sounds
and
like
I think that's why we are able to fill these academy classes. We have not compromised our values in any way. We're just recruiting a little different.
So are we short on boots on the ground, so to speak?
Yes, we're right
How
around
short are we?
65.
Okay.
65.
And how big are these academies?
So our academy
coming
classes
online?
run around 20
Okay.
plus officers. Right now, We right around 38 going through the process.
How many of them normally, make it through? Because that can be pretty tough.
We lose a few through. I tell you, our last academy class, we lost more than ever before.
Really?
Not this one, but the one before that one. But this particular academy class, it's the norm. You're going to lose about 5, 10, 15, 10, no more than 10% of your academy class.
And then
the norm.
Once they pass the academy, they come online with you guys.
FTO program, we lose a few, a couple, maybe 1 or 2 in the field training officer program through our last one. But yeah, there's a process. Look, this is a very hard job. There is nothing simple about policing in America today.
No.
And it's important that we make sure that our officers not only have the training, have the skill sets, and have the mental capacity to do this job, because I'm telling you, it requires a lot. We wear so many different hats.
And you got to be disciplined. And confident, but also sensitive to other folks.
Absolutely.
It's not just coming in and huffing and puffing.
One of the hardest professions in America to date.
I watch protests go on, and I watch what some of those protesters do to the police officer. It blows my mind how those ladies and gentlemen don't lose it.
Yeah.
It's remarkable. It's very impressive.
It is. And that's why it's important in our recruiting efforts when we talk to the community, when we talk to potential leaders who are coming, those who want to serve. It's to put out the misinformation. Look, policing is still one of the most respected, honorable professions in America. Those are facts.
Amen.
We have people in every part of our city, every part of our state, and every part of our country who love us, who support us, who have a very favorable opinion of us. Those are facts.
Let's shift
We
gears
don't
real
hear
quick.
them enough.
Amen. Let's talk about the Bridge Center, because that's a big deal now. We've talked about how a large percentage of crimes are committed by folks who have addiction or mental issues.
It's unfortunately, we just had a couple of homicides and shooting incidents that involved someone who was going through a mental health crisis. We talked about all of those incidents that happened, that there's a lot of trauma. So when we created the Bridge Center for Hope, thanks to our community, we're able to deal with those issues. Over 700 individuals have gone through.
Did I hear it has a capacity of like 5,000?
I'm sorry?
What's the capacity of the Bridge Center? Is it?
No, not that many, because you got to say in the Bridge Center.
Because it's 22,000 or something square feet. It's huge.
I'm sorry, say that one more time.
The square footage of the building is huge.
The building side, absolutely, it is big. But what it does is it allows our police officers to drop off someone who's going through a mental health crisis or taking them to the hospital. So when we look at
makes a lot of sense.
The more than 700 individuals that are now getting the help, we're hoping that that's going to help us.
That's great news.
From dealing with that individual.
So much. It's been
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
My very special guest, Baton Rouge City Police Chief.